All right, we're diving into something really beautiful today, something from a series that's clearly resonated with so many of us. Frieren, Beyond Journey's End.
Oh, yeah. It's just captured hearts, hasn't it? Not just with the fantasy adventure stuff, but that deep look at time, memory, connection, all happening after the big quest is supposedly done.
Exactly. It's got this emotional core and it uses symbols so effectively.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And one of the most powerful, maybe the most poignant, is the blue moonweed.
For sure. It's so tied to Himmel, the hero, and Freiren's own, super long journey to finally understand her past with him.
Mm-hmm.
And the look of this flower, especially in the anime, it's really striking. It sparked a specific question from you, our listener.
Ah, the Nemophila question.
Yes? Could its real-world inspiration be the Nemophila flower? You know, baby blue eyes.
It's a great question. That visual similarity in the anime is pretty strong. You can see why people make that connection.
Right. So think of this deep dive as our own little quest, like Frieren hunting for the flower. We've looked at your sources, articles, research, fan theories.
All that good stuff.
And we're going to try and unpack the insights and maybe solve this botanical mystery. Okay, let's get into it.
Okay, so first, let's just establish what this flower means in the world of Frieren, the blue moonweed. We know it's this lovely blue flower, and it's native to Himmel's hometown.
Yeah, and there's that quiet little tragedy tied to it. Himmel actually promised Frieren he'd show them to her during their big
For a
adventure.
decade-long adventure, yeah.
But, well, he never did. And then, 50 years after they finished the quest, Himmel died. Promise unfulfilled.
And his funeral. That's the real catalyst for Frieren, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It hits her hard, which is fascinating because she sees human lives as so fleeting, you know. But his death forces her to actually, feel the weight of the time they spent together.
And it's not just quiet reflection. The sources really highlight this Meidel's learning.
Yeah.
She takes action. She spends months, maybe even, years, actually searching for these flowers.
Which is huge for her, this ancient elf who's usually just focused on collecting bizarre magic spells.
Totally out of character in a way. Her new mission is finding these blue moon weeds and planting them around Himmel's statue.
It's such a meaningful act. It's not just, oh, I'll fulfill his old wish. It feels like it symbolizes her finally getting it, understanding their bonds, starting to process memory and emotion.
Yeah, the flower becomes this physical thing, this link to Himmel, who's gone, but still so present for her now.
Makes total sense. A tangible connection to a memory, a way to keep a promise that suddenly matters immensely. But there's that name too, blue moon weed.
Right.
Weed usually sounds kind of negative in English, like something you pull out of the garden.
Yeah, but here it doesn't seem to mean unwanted. The sources suggest weed might point towards, resilience, something tough that grows and thrives even where you don't expect it.
Or maybe something common, but with this overlooked beauty.
Exactly. Kind of like Himmel's memories, maybe. Things Frieren perhaps didn't value enough initially in her super long life, but they keep coming back, stronger and stronger, showing how deep those roots really are.
Okay, so we get the emotional weight. Now, the visuals, this is where the Nemophila connection really starts, but it gets complicated, right? Because the manga and the anime show it differently.
We read differently, yeah. And that difference is crucial to this whole inspiration question. If we focus on the anime first, it's pretty consistent in how it draws the blue moon weed.
People noticed specific things, didn't they? Thin heart-shaped petals and that slight yellow in the middle.
The heart shape comes up a lot. And if you look at official merch, it often shows these 5 distinct blue petals, and they really do have that curved heart-like look.
So that strong visual in the anime is why Nemophila jumped out to so many viewers.
Definitely. But then you look at the manga.
The original source material.
Yeah. And it's much more ambiguous, more stylized. Analyses point out the petals aren't always drawn as heart-shaped, and sometimes the number of petals even changes from panel to panel.
Huh. So that's a big difference.
It really is. It strongly suggests the anime team made a conscious artistic choice. They didn't just copy the manga panels. They decided to give the flower a more defined, consistent appearance.
And that appearance just happens to look a lot like Nemophila.
Exactly. Maybe they thought it looked better, or maybe they saw symbolic potential there.
Yeah.
They essentially solidified its look in a way the manga hadn't.
And that choice, that's probably the strongest piece of visual evidence linking the blue moon weed to Nemophila.
I think so.
Okay, let's shift focus then. Let's talk about the real flower, this Nemophila menziesii.
Right, the one commonly called baby blue eyes.
Such a cute name. What's it actually like?
Well, it's a small annual plant, grows pretty low, maybe only 6 inches tall or so. But the flowers are stunning, this really vibrant sky blue, kind of cup-shaped,
How big are the flowers?
usually about an inch, inch and a half wide. And they have 5 distinct petals, or lobes.
Hmm.
The center is often lighter, maybe white or yellowish.
And the leaves? Someone mentioned those were different.
Yeah, Nemophila leaves are quite distinctive. They're called pinnately lobed, basically. They look deeply cut, almost like tiny feathers, and they're usually gray-green.
Okay. And where does it grow naturally?
It's native to Western North America, California, Oregon, places like that. But here's a key thing, especially thinking about the show's origins.
The Japanese connection.
Exactly. Nemophila is famous for blooming en masse. It creates these incredible fields, these carpets, or almost oceans of blue flowers.
Oh, wow.
The most famous spot is probably Hitachi Seaside Park in Japan. It's a huge tourist draw. So this image of vast fields of blue Nemophila is culturally prominent in Japan, making it a very likely visual reference for the Frieren creators.
Okay, so visually, especially going by the anime, the case for Nemophila seems strong, but it's not the only blue flower people thought of, right?
Correct. This is where things get a bit layered. We also need to talk about forget-me-nots, Myosotis species.
Ah, yes. They come up a lot too, especially when people talk about the meaning of the blue moonweed.
Precisely. Symbolism is key here. Visually, forget-me-nots are also small blue flowers.
How do they stack up against Nemophila and the anime flower?
Well, they're typically smaller than Nemophila. Also usually have 5 petals, often with a noticeable yellow or white center, sometimes called the eye. And like Nemophila, they can grow in really dense clusters, making those blue carpets too. So viewers definitely saw a resemblance there as well.
And there's a really cool botanical link connecting them, isn't there?
This is fascinating. Nemophila and forget-me-nots, they're actually in the same plant family, Boraginaceae. They're botanical cousins.
Wow. And I saw something in the sources. Nemophila is sometimes called the American forget-me-not.
Yes. And that nickname is super relevant here. It shows there's this historical or maybe cultural link beyond just how they look. They're connected by family and sometimes by name. It creates a natural bridge.
Okay, let's try a direct comparison then. Visuals and symbolism, how do they match up?
Visually, the anime blue moon weed lines up pretty well with Nemophila, the blue color, the 5 petals, the center detail. But like we said, the manga is variable. And there's that one specific detail mentioned for the blue moon weed in some descriptions, tulip-like leaves.
Oh, right.
That definitely does not match Nemophila's feathery, pinnately lobed leaves. So the leads are a clear mismatch if we're looking for a perfect visual copy.
Okay, so visually, strong resemblance in the anime, but maybe not a perfect match overall, especially factoring in manga and leaves. What about the symbolism?
This is where forget-me-nots really shine. Nemophila's symbolism is nice things like gentleness, love at first sight, peace, healing. That resonates with Himmel and Frieren's story, sure.
But
But forget-me-not symbolism. Love, remembrance, enduring connection, loyalty. I mean, that's almost a perfect description of the Blue Moon Weed's whole purpose in the narrative. It's all about remembering Himmel and the bond Frieren is finally understanding.
it really is spot on. So it's almost like maybe the anime team liked the look of Nemophila more. Maybe it was visually more striking or easier to animate consistently.
Could be.
But the meaning they wanted was pure forget-me-not, and the sources pointed out how the anime really leans into the heart-shaped petals for the blue moon weed. Even if real Nemophila petals aren't always perfectly heart-shaped, and the manga didn't emphasize it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That seems like a very deliberate visual choice by the anime team. They're using the universal symbol of a heart to visually hammer home those themes of love, affection, connection to Himmel. It just reinforces the emotional link for the viewer.
And this fits a pattern, doesn't it? The anime team seems to do this a lot, deliberately picking or changing flowers from the manga to add extra symbolic layers.
Yeah, the sources had some great examples of that. Like in episode 27, Siri was shown with lupine flowers.
Those tall, spiky ones.
Right, and in Japanese flower language, Hanakotoba, lupine, can mean imagination or, interestingly, voraciousness, which fits Siri's immense magical knowledge perfectly.
And phlegm, Frieren's master.
She was associated with Ornithogalum, the star of Bethlehem flower. Its meaning in Hanakotoba, talent, directly symbolizing her genius.
Wow. And what about the daisies? The ones Frieren makes for young Himmel.
Yeah. The manga just said flowers, but the anime made them white daisies. In Hanakotoba, white daisies can symbolize a secret love.
Oh, that's subtle. And heartbreaking, knowing Himmel's feelings.
Right. So these examples show the anime team is clearly very intentional about using flowers for symbolism.
Which makes it highly likely that their choice to make the blue moon weed look so much like Nemophila was also deliberate. It wasn't just random. It was probably, like you said, an act of symbolic clarification or enhancement.
That seems like the best explanation.
Yeah.
They used Nemophila's visuals, maybe some of its softer meanings, but the core emotional punch comes from the remembrance theme, strongly tied to forget-me-nots.
And that botanical connection, the shared family and nickname, maybe that's what allowed them to bridge the two in their minds.
Very possibly. It provides a neat link. And there's even one more layer. Frieren's favorite spell, right? Making huge fields of flowers.
Yeah.
Well, in Japanese culture, a field of flowers can sometimes be a symbol for the afterlife or paradise. So that adds another subtle dimension, connecting flowers in the show, not just to memory and love, but maybe also to where Himmel and their other friends have gone.
Okay, so pulling this all together now, based on everything in your sources, what's the most probable answer to your original question about Nemophila?
I think the most compelling conclusion is that, yes, Nemophila mcianci, baby blue eyes, was very likely the primary visual inspiration for the blue moon weed, especially the way it looks in the anime. The anime team really leaned into that specific visual.
But, and this is a big but.
But the flowers, meaning its symbolic weight in the story, draws incredibly deeply from the forget-me-not. That whole theme of remembrance, enduring connection, that's pure forget-me-not territory.
So it's like a hybrid, a composite inspiration.
Exactly. That feels like the right way to put it. It's a fantasy flower that visually borrows heavily from Nemophila, particularly in its vibrant anime depiction, but it carries the profound emotional significance of remembrance that we associate strongly with forget-me-nots.
And maybe that botanical kinship and the American forget-me-not name helped tie it all together for the creators.
Seems very plausible. Now, we should say the creators haven't officially confirmed this, right?
Oh, yeah.
This is interpretation based on the visual evidence, the symbolism, fan analysis.
But it's a pretty strong interpretation. The parallels are just too compelling to ignore.
I agree. It fits together really well.
This whole deep dive, it just shows how much thought and artistry is packed into Frieren, doesn't it? This flower, it's not just decoration. It's this incredibly layered symbol. Memory, loss, connection, healing. Frieren's growth.
It really is. And it all kicked off because you, our listener, had that sharp eye and curiosity about a real-world flower. Hopefully, this exploration gave you some aha moments, and maybe a deeper appreciation for how fiction can weave in these real-world threads to create something so moving.
Totally. It really makes you think, though. If this one flower, the blue moon weed, holds all this meaning about remembrance and healing, and Frieren's whole journey is about her finally learning about humanity and emotion over her incredibly long life, well, what other seemingly small things, objects, quiet moments, maybe fleeting conversations in her journey might hold similarly deep, quiet meanings? Just waiting there, ready to bloom if we look closely enough, something to chew on.